Olympic glory for Team GB on the white water and in the green pool. Jack Law and Chris Mears made history with the first ever gold in synchronised diving.
I'm kind of stood here with this big shiny gold thing around my neck and I don't really understand it.
And Joe Clark surfed and swerved his way to gold in the kayak race. GB's now in the medals top 10. Also this lunchtime, the dark side of sport. Police investigate claims this young Wimbledon star may have been poisoned. Assad accused of using chemical barrel bombs in his barrage of Aleppo. 4 die from chlorine poisoning. And a doll like me wins smiles from a young quadriplegic girl. Her parents were prompted by another thoughtful toy.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Alistair Stewart.
Good afternoon. There were 2 golds, 4 bronzes and a fair bit of history and heroism from Team GB in Rio. Jack Laws and Chris Mears executed a near-perfect dive of incredible complexity to see off the challenge of the Americans and the Chinese and bag gold. That despite a ruptured spleen having taken Mears close to death just a few years ago. And Joe Clark, who at 15 suffered with meningitis, slalomed his way to gold in a ferociously fought K1 kayak race. Among 4 more bronze medals was the first of any colour in 108 years for our gymnasts, as Max Whitlock did the business. Our sports correspondent Ian Payne has the details of a magic day.
It's already been called Wonderful Wednesday, a day for Team GB to rival Super Saturday at the London 2012 Games. They won 6 medals in all yesterday, 2 of them gold and 4 bronze, which means they've had their most successful start to any recent Olympic Games, better than London when they'd won 9 in all at this stage.
It's going to be gold for Team GB.
It's difficult to pick out a highlight, but Britain's first ever Olympic gold in diving must be a candidate.
Here they go.
Jack Law and Chris Mears dissecting the now green diving pool to hold off the challenge of the often perfect Chinese to make history.
The key moment for me was seeing Jack down on his knees, bursting into tears. And I just knew at that moment exactly what he was feeling. And it was just that release of expectation and pressure and everything that he set out to prove. And it all just came gushing out.
But if that was unexpected, so too was gold in the kayak K1 event with Joe Clark, skillfully negotiating the upstream and downstream gates to post the fastest time of the final.
Oh, sensational, 0.17.
Kind of really sunk in when the national anthem came on. And I was looking at the Union flag flying high, and I was on the top of the rostrum, and it was kind of like a bit like gulp moment, and I couldn't really sing along with the national anthem as I would have liked to, as I'd like kind of rehearsed myself that I would do. I don't want to choke and completely cry in front of everybody because that could be embarrassing.
Oh, she's caught her, yes.
There were also bronze medals for Sally Conway in the judo hall, for Chris Froome, who had to avoid the puddles in the men's time trial, and double trap marksman Stephen Scott beating compatriot Tim Neal with a perfect 30 out of 30 in the bronze medal shootout. And there was an historic bronze in the men's all-round gymnastics, with Max Whitlock becoming the first Briton to win a medal in the event since the London Games. That's the London Games of 1908. Wonderful Wednesday. Beat that. Ian Payne, ITV News.
Now, it was a synchronised forward 2.5 somersault with 3 twists dive from the 3-metre board, and it helped win gold for Team GB's Chris Mears and Jack Law, leaving both the mighty American and Chinese pairs in their wake, as Ian just said. Well, a little earlier, I was delighted to talk to Chris, who 7 years ago suffered a diving accident that ruptured his spleen, leaving him with just a slender chance of even surviving, let alone winning Olympic gold.
Well, yeah, I've had quite a rough journey to get to where I am now. Yeah, like in 2009, I had 5% chance of surviving an operation where my spleen had ruptured, and then I went into a coma for 6 days or so. Yeah, so that wasn't a great time in my life, but I then just went back to training, worked really hard, made London, got 5th and 9th, and that really helped me build on all of my strengths and weaknesses to come into this games and win.
And then you and Jack came up with this utterly brilliant dive that when you first did it, the judges didn't understand, so they marked you down. Not last night.
No, last night it was very successful. We have scored more points than we did last night on it, but the thing with that dive is it's such a high degree of difficulty that it actually doesn't matter so much if you don't hit it as perfectly as you can. We took a risk and it really paid off last night.
I sensed watching it that the penny hadn't fully dropped for you and Jack until the medal ceremony.
Yeah, I don't even know if it dropped then, to be honest, mate. I'm not really sure that it's dropped now. I'm kind of stood here with this big shiny gold thing around my neck and I don't really understand it. But, you know, we put 6 dives really, really consistently out on our heads. And we came out on top. Like, it's unbelievable.
Do you have any sense out there, thousands of miles away, the level of support, and I dare say even love, that there is in this country for what you and the rest of them are doing? 8.1 million people watched you two last night win gold.
That is incredible. I didn't know that stat. I could really feel the love and support from the guys on social media. Like, thank you for everyone who tweeted, Instagram, like Facebooked me. It was just an incredible experience for me just to be at the Rio Games, and then to get a medal was overwhelming, to say the least. So yeah, thank you to all the support, and of course my family who were there watching me, so thank you to everyone.
Finally, while we were just waiting to make the connections between Rio and London, you were rubbing your eyes a little bit, to be frank. Good night last night?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't do any drinking or anything. Me and Jack just kind of sat in bed, just chatting for a bit and looking at these medals, just how amazing they are. We both can't believe it. We're so overwhelmed by it, and that's pretty much all we did. And then I proceeded to look at the ceiling for 5 hours and then sleep 2 hours, and that's where I am now.
He's a good boy, that Chris Mears, talking to me a little earlier. And Chris isn't the only British athlete competing at the Games who's had to overcome serious injury or illness to achieve a dream. The horse rider, William Fox Pitt, has competed in Rio too, despite the fact that he was in a coma less than a year ago. For his story and all of the others, go to itv.com/news. And our sports editor, Steve Scott, is also in Rio and, as you can see, joins me live. Steve, let's talk about that growing medal tally. Team GB really pulled it out of the bag over the last 24 hours.
They certainly have, Alistair, and I think what's particularly impressive is they've done it in events where traditionally they're not strong. Mears and Laura, of course, that sensational diving gold last night, and then, as Ian mentioned in his report, Max Whitlock getting an individual men's gymnastics first time for over a century. So that's what's particularly impressive. We're on day 6. If we want to make comparisons, well, at the end of day 6 in London, Team GB had 15 medals. Well, they've already got 12 here. But I think actually what we should be doing is making comparison with Beijing, because what Team GB have always said is they want this to be the best away games. Now, at the end of day 6, in Beijing, Team GB had 7 medals. So you can see already Team GB here are well ahead of the curve.
And what do you rate the prospects today?
Alistair, pretty good. The weather, as you can probably tell, is much better today, so the rowing starting. Team GB competing in 4 of the 6 finals there. Now, all eyes obviously will be on Catherine Granger and Vicky Thornley, because if they can pull off a medal, then that means that Granger, in her 5th Olympics, becomes Britain's most decorated female Olympian, overtaking Rebecca Adlington. But apart from the rowing, the cycling starts today. Obviously, Team GB is very strong in that. There's canoe slalom too, and the men's sevens team, the rugby sevens team, they take part in the semi-final. So almost everywhere you look, there is a medal opportunity today.
Fingers crossed, Steve. Thank you very much indeed. Steve Scott, live in Rio. Still to come, calls for change as new figures show that Muslims face the highest unemployment levels in the UK. And the mini-me doll that was a special gift for this toddler. But first, police are investigating allegations that a Wimbledon junior tennis player was deliberately poisoned during last month's tournament. 18-year-old British player Gabriella Taylor spent 4 days in intensive care after she was forced to pull out of a quarter-final match when she became unwell. Well, Richard Pallow joins me live in the studio. You've been looking into this. Serious allegations, but what specifically are the police looking at?
Well, they're looking into what's, on the face of it, is a very murky business, but for the player was almost deadly. It was during her quarter-final match in the Wimbledon junior singles just gone this summer. She stopped because she said, "I'm feeling unwell." She told the umpire, these are the pictures. She actually told him she'd been feeling unwell for a day or two at this stage. And how? Because for the next few days, she ended up in intensive care. Now, originally, they thought she might have food poisoning. What she actually had was a strain of leptospirosis. It is a very, very rare bacteria here in the UK and is transmitted usually through rat urine. Now, she nearly died when she had this, and her parents couldn't really understand how, because at the time of the tournament, she was in a very controlled environment. She was going from the National Tennis Centre to play at Wimbledon, watching what she was eating and going back again. So they called in the police. Only a few weeks after, I would like to say. So the police have taken away water bottles to look at them, although the bacteria by now has probably disappeared. There are a couple of possibilities. She may have been targeted by betting syndicates, some people think. Even at that level, there's money to be made, or by rival player or coach. These are serious allegations, but at the moment, there is no proof at all that there isn't just an innocent explanation for all of this. One good thing, of course, she has tweeted this week a photo of her in Marbella. She is looking healthier. She is looking better. She's on the road to recovery. But authorities at Wimbledon say they've not been contacted as yet. In the meantime, police and their investigations do continue.
Intriguing stuff. Richard, thank you very much. And police are investigating after reports of a near miss between a drone and a passenger aircraft in southwest England. The Flybe plane carrying 62 people from London was 2 miles away from Newquay Airport when its pilot reported the near collision. And 3 children and a woman have been killed in an 8-car crash in Berkshire. A 45-year-old woman, 2 11-year-olds and a 13-year-old, all believed to have been travelling in the same car, died in the crash on the A34 yesterday evening. A man has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. At least 4 people have died and dozens, the majority of them children and babies, have been injured after bombs suspected to have been filled with chlorine were dropped in the besieged area of Aleppo in Syria. Well, this lunchtime, the United Nations has said it is investigating, and if confirmed, these attacks would amount to a war crime. Paul Davis reports.
These rescue workers believe they're at the scene of a war crime. The mangled wreckage, they say, is what remains of barrel bombs dropped by government forces on the Azabdir district of Aleppo last night. From the smell and from the suffering caused, they're convinced the bombs contained chlorine gas. This man said there was a strong smell of gas. Children began screaming, then suffocating. There were tears in their eyes and they couldn't breathe. Another witness said there was a strong smell of chlorine after the barrels dropped. Then many families became sick with breathing problems. Hospitals in Aleppo say many of the victims were children and have released these pictures, along with a claim by doctors that a banned chemical agent has been used against the civilian population, killing 4 people and injuring dozens more.
About 60 patients rushed to the hospital almost at the same time. They were always, all of them had symptoms of choking, coughing. You don't need a doctor to know that it is a chloride smell.
Those worst affected cannot be evacuated because of fighting continuing around Aleppo. At the weekend, anti-government rebels managed to break a month-long siege, but there's still no safe route in and out. The UN is calling on the Assad regime and its Russian allies to observe a 48-hour ceasefire.
The stakes could not be higher in the coming days because really millions of Syrian civilians are now in a seeming free fall.
Last night's alleged chlorine attack is being investigated by the UN as a potential war crime. Paul Davis, ITV News.
Hundreds of people living in areas surrounding the French city of Marseille have been evacuated after several wildfires. More than 1,500 firefighters are battling blazes that are being fueled by high winds. Follows fatal fires in Portugal that have killed 3 people. And a man's been arrested after he climbed Trump Towers in New York in an attempt to meet Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. The 20-year-old managed to scale 21 floors of the 58-story glass building using suction cups and a harness before being grabbed by the police and hauled back inside. Here, Labour's National Executive Committee has taken its fight over who is allowed to vote in the leadership contest to the Court of Appeal. The High Court ruled earlier this week that new members were entitled to vote under the party's rule book. But Labour says the NEC is the ultimate decider. Well, Angus Walker is outside the Court of Appeal for us now. Labour, in essence, still trying to refuse to give up the fight to stop thousands of these newbies voting in the contest.
Yes, and it may seem bizarre to some people that a political party is trying to stop people voting, but this is really about Jeremy Corbyn's chances of being re-elected as the leader of the Labour Party. About 150,000 supporters had conditions imposed on them by Labour's NEC, conditions on whether they could vote or not. They had to pay more. That was successfully challenged by 5 of those Labour supporters a few days ago, and today the Labour Party is in court behind me challenging that. Now, these up to 150,000 supporters are assumed to be Corbyn supporters, and that's why the Labour Party is at war over this, and it's gone inside the Court of Appeal. Here's what the barrister for the Labour Party had to say earlier today.
We say that the judge's interpretation of the rule book was erroneous as a matter of law, that the NEC was plainly entitled to impose a 6-month condition on the clear words of Chapter 4 of the rule book, which sets out the rules of elections of national officers, including the party's leaders.
And these allegations of left-wing infiltration of the Labour Party really poisoning the atmosphere.
Yes, fights over the grassroots in the court, but also divisions at the top, leader versus deputy leader. Today, Tom Watson, the deputy leader, saying he has evidence of hard left activists infiltrating this bitter leadership contest.
Angus, thank you very much. MPs are warning that Muslims face the highest unemployment levels of all religious and ethnic groups in the United Kingdom and are the most economically disadvantaged in British society. The report from the Women and Equalities Committee found it's Muslim women who are the most affected by inequality and discrimination when looking for work. And if it's found, the average unemployment figure for the country is 5.4%. Now, that figure rises to 12.8% among Muslims and to 16% among Muslim women.
I think there was deep concern amongst committee members about reports of potentially unlawful discrimination in the workplace, which was going unchecked by employers.
Well, joining me now from Birmingham is Faiza Vaid, the Executive Director of the Muslim Women's Network in the United Kingdom. Good of you to join us. What do you think the impact of simply a person's appearance has in this search for employment and equal rights?
I guess what we're finding and what the report has confirmed is that Muslim women are being discriminated against in employment at a number of levels. So from the position of submitting a CV with a Muslim sounding name to the point of going to an interview with a headscarf, and then being in employment and trying to obtain a promotion or further training or development. So discrimination is happening at all of these levels. And the fact is that Muslim women are now facing a triple penalty. So being a woman, things like the gender pay gap would apply, being of an Asian background or BME background, and being of a religious background.
What are the kind of explanations, that's a generous word, excuses might be a better one, are Muslim women hearing from would-be employers?
Take off your headscarf. You know, that's one of the things. If you don't want the discrimination, take off your headscarf. The fact is, though, that this is a human right, a basic human right to choose what you want to wear, which doesn't impose on your ability to perform in an environment, in a work environment. So those excuses, and I think that is the right word, excuses, are nonsense.
Extraordinary. Faiza Vaid, thank you very much for joining us this lunchtime.
Thank you.
Now, just days after Hermione Rose, Allen took her first steps at the age of 11 months, she contracted meningitis and tragically lost all of her limbs. The toddler has adjusted to life as a quadruple amputee, but Hermione is yet to meet anyone else who looks like her. So her parents decided to do something about that, as Joanna Partridge explains.
Where's her? Hey, she wants...
Life with Harmony Rose Allen is full of laughter. Along with her parents, Freya and Ross, there's a new member of the family. It's Rebecca, a doll that, like Harmony, is a quadruple amputee.
Her eyes lit up. She literally just was like, and she just said, she's like me, mummy.
This video of an American girl receiving a doll, which also had a prosthetic leg like hers, was watched online by millions. Harmony's mum, Freya, also saw it and was inspired. She got a friend in the US to buy a doll and tracked down the American prosthetics firm to adapt it.
She's never seen quadruple amputees, and I just wanted her to know that she is different, but she's not, there is other people, she's not the only one.
Harmony's come a long way since she contracted meningitis at just 11 months. Days after taking her first step, she lost all her limbs.
She is so feisty. She's got such a good attitude. She's quite strong and she doesn't let anything beat her.
Meningitis B kills more under 5s in Britain than any other infectious disease. Since last July, the vaccine's been available on the NHS to babies between 2 and 5 months. For older children, the vaccine has to be paid for privately, and Harmony's family want to see that changed. Harmony was only given a 10% chance of survival. Now approaching her 3rd birthday, she continues to defy the odds. Joanna Partridge, ITV News.
And my apologies to Harmony. That's it. More at 6:30. Bye-bye.